Hey guys, I'm Kristen and I'm excited for today's video because it is from my Back to Basics series. This is going to be a series that extends over the month of June, and I'm going to have a weekly video for you guys taking makeup application back to its basics. There are so many new trends and makeup products that come out. It can be a little bit overwhelming, and so I just wanted to go over the very basic level of makeup application, especially since so many of us are at very different levels. So if you're interested, today's video is the basic application of foundation and concealer. Okay, so to start off for our basic application of concealer and foundation, I am going to actually put my hair back a little bit away from the face. I love these clips. I feel like I use them in so many of my videos, but they are sectioning clips from Kristen S, which you can get at Target. So to start, we're gonna start off with using a primer. So you may wonder, why should I use primer? Do I need to use a primer? Using a face primer is great because it is going to basically smooth your face and give just a nice canvas for your makeup to lay on top of. It's also gonna help to make your makeup last all day, and different primers are going to do different things. So for instance, I'm using the Honest Beauty Everything Primer Glow, and so this one's main purpose is to be able to give my face a little bit of a glow. You can find primers that are really good for maybe minimizing the look of pores. They might be an oil absorbing primer, so if you tend to be a little bit more oily, you could apply that in the T-zone. But overall, it's a good practice to be putting a primer on your face before your makeup application. And I am just going to use my hands, which is the best way to do it, to just blend it and just make sure that it's easily getting all over the face. So moving on to foundation. So today I'm going to be using the Laura Mercier Flawless Lumiere Radiance Perfecting Foundation. I really do enjoy this foundation. If you can't tell, I do like a good glow to the face. So I'm just going to shake it up. Obviously there are different types. There are cream-based foundations, powdered foundations, liquid foundations, CC creams, BB creams, all that sort of thing. I think it comes down to personal preference. As far as a liquid goes, I personally like using a liquid just because it gives me the right kind of coverage that I want, and if you have dry skin, sometimes powder can tend to show that a little bit more. So I like working with a liquid. So I'm going to start off by putting a little bit on the back of my hand. I sort of use this as my canvas, and we are going to go in with a beauty blender. So the reason that I'm going to use a beauty blender as opposed to a foundation brush, which you could go with either, but the pro of using a beauty blender is that it's going to go on a little bit lighter, and I think you can build from there. I also think it just blends things a little bit easier and makes it look more seamless. When you use a foundation brush, which there's nothing wrong with using a foundation brush, this is going to apply a little bit more heavy, and it's a little more controlled for sure, but personal preference, I like using a beauty blender just because of its seamless application. You do want to make sure that you wet your blender and that you squeeze out any excess water before you are applying or using it with the makeup. So I'm just going to dab it, and I am going to take half my face at a time. Instead of looking at all of it, I'm just going to cut it down the middle to apply. And with the beauty blender, I'm just going to dab. Okay, so an important tip in applying your foundation is to make sure that you take it down the neck. You don't want any lines on your face. You want this to look as natural as possible, and so that means pulling it down the jaw and the neck. It's important that you're getting your foundation shade matched as well to your skin, because it's going to look way more natural if you have the right shade of foundation. So that kind of comes with knowing your undertone. Whether you're a neutral undertone, cool with some pinks, or maybe warm with a little bit more golden and maybe yellow undertones, that will help you to choose your foundation a little more. And also just, you can go into a store and get shade matched to make sure it's the right one that matches your skin. let's move on to concealer. Okay, so for concealer, I'm going in with my favorite. I talk about this thing all the time, but I love the Glossier Stretch Concealer. Super buildable, very lightweight, but it gives a really nice glow for the under eye. So I'm gonna use my finger when it comes to applying my concealer, but I'm gonna use my ring finger, which applies the least amount of pressure. And the best thing to do with your concealer is to apply it in a triangle underneath the eye, instead of just swooping it underneath. The correct way to apply would be the triangle to offset the look of being tired, to get that eye a very well rested appearance. And I'm just continuing to dab with my ring finger. Your finger is actually going to warm up the application of the concealer to your face. And I'm dabbing while applying, and I'm kind of going in this area just above like my cheekbone and down this way, so you can kind of notice the triangle. I sometimes also apply it to the brow bone. Now, you could apply a concealer that's different from the stretch concealer. You don't always have to use your finger. You could also use a beauty blender. A brush, again, will give a little bit more of an application, a little bit heavier. Either way is wrong. I think it's personal preference. I'm gonna take my concealer down the bridge of my nose as a highlighter. And you can kind of pull it up here too, between the brows. This also kind of brings a little bit of a highlight. Okay, so setting powders. This is the part where I go ahead and I put a setting powder underneath my eye to make sure that my concealer stays in place. I'm gonna use the Laura Mercier. This is just the translucent loose setting powder. I'm almost out. And I'm just gonna get a little bit in the lid. A little goes a long way. I'm gonna use just a basic brush like this. I'm gonna swirl it, tap off the excess, and I'm just going to pat it underneath. But just for an everyday look, just at least setting that under eye. You can obviously also take this setting powder anywhere that you feel like you maybe get oily throughout the day. So you know your T-zone would be a good place to take it down. All right, I'm gonna go in and do the rest of my makeup, and then I'll meet you at the end. All right, ladies, our foundation and concealer is done. I did the rest of my makeup as well, but that was a basic application of the foundation and concealer, so hopefully that was helpful. Make sure to stay tuned to this series. I'm really excited about it. Next week is gonna be all about brows. So make sure you're following me at Kristen Nicole Beauty, and until next week, we'll see ya.